I welcome Ms Ellie Sweeney, the Chief Executive Officer, and your team to the table. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your attendance at this late hour. I understand you've tabled an opening statement, Ms Sweeney. In the interest of time, I would either request that you leave it there or keep any opening remarks very brief.
Let me keep it very brief then.
Sure.
I've done this before. Let me try and hit some highlights. Again, Senators, it's fabulous to be back in Canberra and again with my colleagues here today. I would suggest maybe just a couple of quick things. It's fair to say I think NBN has had a solid year is probably how we would position it. And as we look to the half-year results, we grew our revenue at 2%. That was up to $2.9 billion. Our EBITDA was 2.2, and our operating expenses actually decreased by about 7%. We remain on track to deliver the guidance for the full year. And again, that's a revenue position between 5.8 and 6 billion. It's also a EBITDA between 4.2 and 4.4. So we're delighted with those numbers. We're seeing strong momentum across our business. And I think the last time we were here, we represented some of the results we were seeing out of Accelerate Great. And maybe if I can just land a couple of numbers here. We are continuing to see demand for high-speed tiers accelerate, and maybe just to give you a couple of data points there. Today, about 43%, actually I think today it's 44% of services on NBN are on plans 100 megabits and above, and we have about 34% of our customers on plans that are now 500 megabits and above. And the reason that's important is if I correct that 34% a year ago, that number was 3. If we look at the number of customers who are on our fibre network, and I think this is important just to make clear to the committee, is we are at an absolute inflection point. Today, more than 3.2 million or 37% of our active premises are on fibre to the premise, so on that fibre solution, and that is more than the combined fibre to the curb, fibre to the node and fibre to the basement. So it's the first time we have really hit that inflection point. And that's great news for Australians, it's great news for our communities, it's great news for NBN as well. We are delivering this transition at scale. Maybe again, just a quick data point. We will upgrade more than 560,000 customers this year from copper to fibre. So we're seeing the resilience benefits of this transaction, or this transition rather. And we've seen it a lot during the recent high-risk weather season. Fibre networks consistently outperform legacy networks and legacy technologies with fewer points of failure, with less resilience in power and with faster service restoration. And over the past year, our fibre to the prem solution has delivered something like a 99.8% availability, and we've seen customer complaints decrease by 69%. I know there's a little bit of interest in terms of our final 622,000 customers, so let me just finish with that point. A year ago or more, we began the final 622,000 upgrades. We have again reached a milestone there, which we're delighted to announce, that we have now laid more than 100,000 kilometres within that final 622,000 customers moving from FTTN, of which half are in regional Australia. So maybe just to give a couple of dot points there, around 84% of that 622 have progressed to a detailed design, around 30% are in construction, and around 35,000 premises can now order a fibre upgrade. And that's more premises are coming online every month. So, Chair, at the completion of December 2030, this program, together with the prior 3.5 million upgrade, will see about 94% of fixed-line footprint capable of multi-gig speeds. And I think importantly, and in regional Australia, multi-gig speeds will be available to around 2.78 million premises on fibre, and we'll see 99% of the regional footprint multi-gig. So, Chair, on that note, hopefully that was a quick run-through of just some of the results. We'd be delighted to take your questions.
Thank you very much. That was well done. Senator Henderson.
Thank you very much, Chair, Ms Sweeney, and to your team, good evening. Thank you, and apologies that we have held you up a bit. It was only an hour and a half wait, which is better than some other witnesses. Look, I wanted to cut to the chase and ask you about your rollout, and I refer to the article in The Australian, NBN finished 14 years away in nation's longest infrastructure build. That was published on the 8th of February of this year. And the picture that this story tells is not good, that the full rollout is going to take another 14 years. And so that the overall delivery of the NBN, particularly compounded by the relatively low take-up of Australians, so about 69% of Australians are taking up the NBN, it means that this is a project that won't be delivered until about 2040. So can I ask you to just respond to that?
Absolutely. Senator, maybe a couple of things. We dispute that comment from the Australian. We did go back to clarify the commentary there around 2040. So if I can be clear, the 622,000, those final 622, that will be completed by December of 2030. And I'll throw to Mr Labanovich in a minute just to give a bit more...
But I'm asking, no, I understand that, and you've given us information on that, but what is wrong? So when will the rollout, the entire network be delivered?
So that rollout of that 622,000 customers, which is that, and I know we talk about a lot of numbers here, so my apologies, that's that final 622. It was the $3.8 billion investment that was announced, which was referenced in that article. That $3.8 billion investment, we believe, will be brought in on time and under budget, and it will be brought in by December of 2030. Indeed, we'll have 85% of that footprint delivered by July of 2029. So I think, again, we saw the article, we did try to correct it. The Australian didn't publish that, but I might ask Dion to give further update in terms of just some more colour in terms of how that is progressing.
They didn't publish it.
So, I mean, I welcome your response to the Australian in relation to what you said about their report. I mean, you're talking about one limited rollout, clearly, of 622,000 homes. I'm asking about the complete delivery of the NBN.
Well, I suppose it depends on how you determine the complete rollout. So maybe if I can answer it this way, we will see the completion of that 622, which will be the customers who will have that fibre down their street. So that'll be completed again, the final part, 85% of that 622 by July of 2029, and then we'll have the completion of that finalised for the 622 by December of 2030. Again, the next step for us is those fibre upgrades, so maybe if I can answer it this year.
Yeah, so in terms of there's still some 3 million households on FTTN and fibre to the curb connections, and so there's an estimated another 12 years or so for all of those households
that's to be... Senator, that's not the number that we'd be providing. So maybe if I can answer it this way. At the moment, we have today still 2 million customers on fibre to the node, and we have about 745,000 on fibre to the curb.
700 and how many?
745,000 customers, active homes and businesses on those two technologies. Today, we have an upgrade path for those technologies. And the stat I've just provided you was over the last year, we've upgraded more than 560, or we expect by the end of this calendar financial year to upgrade more than 560,000. So look, at the moment, we're seeing... Okay,
so you're talking about 2.745
in that footprint
million.
To go. And so, again, we're forecasting that out. Again, we'll need to have all of that completed for us to be able to complete that. We're not forecasting out to 2040, but I can't give you the final number. It's really going to be dependent on, again, customers at the end of the day who want to move. Now, we've had great success over the last year of more than 560,000 customers wanting to move. We are putting in place facilities and consultation with the RSPs and with the wider community around being at a certain stage able to ask customers to move to fibre where it makes sense.
So can I just want to go back to the 2 million on fibre to the node and 745,000
That's correct.
on fibre to the curb. what is the forecast for when those customers will be able to go to fibre to the premise upgrades?
Well, the majority of those customers could go to an upgrade now. It is only the final 622,000 that we're working through at the moment, Senator.
So they've all got the ability to go straight to FTTP upgrades right now, have they?
There's outside of 622,000, the rest would have that capability to go.
But there's no proactive fibre migration program now.
Well, Senator, a couple of things. There has been, as I've just suggested, close to 560,000 customers who have elected to move. There have been the lifetime to date of those upgrades, which is about 1.3 million customers have moved from copper to fibre, so further upgrades have happened. About 20% of that upgrade base has been customers who have been what we've classed a UPL, an underperforming line or a poor performing line, so they have been proactively migrated. On the 1st of July, we're about to announce, and we have rather announced, a change to high-speed tiers for customers on fibre to the curb. So that's at 745,000. And you might remember, Senator, previously, outside of the underperforming and poor performing lines, you needed to go to a higher speed tier. That's going to be removed for that 745,000 customers. So that's great for that customer base. So whatever plan you're on, you can stay on that and we'll move you to fibre. And then finally, we have been consulting about a more targeted migration where it just makes sense for us to move customers off that copper network.
And that's the point that I'm raising, Ms Sweeney. You've said they can all move now, but they're no longer being migrated. These customers that are currently on FTTN, the ones that we were talking about, and fibre to the curb, are no longer proactively being migrated. So the timelines to push all of those customers onto fibre to the premises is being pushed out dramatically, and in fact the second stage of the rollout and the timeline for that will require more than $1 billion more expenditure, which is not yet been provided. And so there is a very, very long tail to deliver this project.
Well, Senator,
and to complete and I'm talking at high level, to complete the delivery of the NBN.
Well, Senator, we'd probably have a different view. Our view is by 2030, about 88% of customers in the fixed line footprint will be on the two dominant technologies, which will be HFC and FTTP, so fibre. So the remaining customers is actually quite a smaller number around that footprint. So we're actively working with the RSPs to, again, put in place incentives for people to move. But, Senator, there are some customers who, quite frankly, we will need to incent or actually target them to move off copper into fibre. I can give you a stat here that by the end of 2030, we expect to have only 100,000 customers left on FTTC. So,
right, well, if you're saying that this report is wrong, and I think this report seems like it's underpinned with a great deal of research in terms of the rollout, then I would welcome a detailed advice as to the infrastructure rollout of the NBN, including in relation to the proactive migration of those who are currently on non-fibre to the premise connections.
We'd be delighted to do that. And maybe if I can just correct one thing, I think you've referenced that it's going to cost us more. Quite frankly, on the 622, I'll be delighted to be back here in February of 2027 to give you the final costings of that, and we will be bringing that in under budget.
I'm talking about everyone. I'm talking about delivering the project.
Well, Senator, look, we've got an upgrade roadmap for all customers on fibre to the node and fibre to the curb. And again, I've just given you the number. It's close to 2.745 million customers on that, and we'll be delighted to be able to help those customers move on to fibre because of all the benefits. Just one thing you did mention that I think, an extra $1 billion in terms of the rollout. Quite frankly, we're seeing the cost of lead-ins come down. I think previously when we've been asked in the Senate what the cost of a lead-in has been, it's been close to $1,600, and today we're tracking under $1,000.
All right, well, I would welcome if you could provide us with detailed information in relation to not just the delivery of, or completion of the NBN, but also the additional costs required?
And definitely as far as I can, Senator. Obviously, we do have a debt market and we provide as much data as we can, but we are restricted in some of that. But definitely I'll take that on notice. We'll be delighted to give you more information.
Thank you. Now, I raised this briefly. The NBN uptake is now sitting at about 69% of eligible households.
Across all of the 7 technology centres. It's higher in the fixed line footprint than it is in the satellite and fixed wireless.
What's the breakdown? Do you have the breakdown?
Yeah, sure. So in fixed line, it's about 71%. If you can just take me at roughly 71% in terms of the uptake in terms of fixed wireless, that number hasn't changed. It sits at about 50% and satellite sitting, I think, about 25.
So fixed wireless is 50?
Yes.
And satellites at 25. Is that because everyone's gone over to Starlink?
Well, I mean, some of it is. So, again, we've got about 65,000 customers in the satellite footprint, and that's off a potential base of about 300. There has been decline in that market, as you'd imagine. Starlink has come in with an offer. It's great for Australians to have, I think, that competitive environment and that dynamic environment that we're seeing. But we continue to offer a great service with Skymaster. And I think, as you're aware, we are progressing to move off Skymaster onto low Earth orbit satellite.
Ms Sweeney, that's taking a very positive view that you continue to offer a great service with Skymaster.
Well,
Skymaster is getting a pretty bad... I don't know whether you've been in the bush lately. It's getting a pretty bad rap in the bush.
Well, I might throw it to Gavin, maybe just to give a bit of
Gavin and I have chatted about this, in fact, quite a few years ago when I suggested that you should have a look at Starlink and look what was going on. And I think things are just getting worse on the Skymaster satellite. I know you are moving to LeoSat. But anyway, so what can I just ask, though, what is the NBN doing and also the government doing to try and raise take-up by Australians of the NBN?
Across the board? Or
across the board, yes.
Oh, I think, Senator, we've done a lot, and maybe if I can go back before I throw to my colleagues here. If you think about accelerate rate, and if you think about us being able to provide a greater level of speed and capacity to customers, that was a fantastic initiative. So you might remember if you were on a 100 plan, if you were on the HFC network and fibre to the premise, you went to 500. If you were on 250, you went to 750. If you're on 500, you went to a gigabit. So if you start to think about the use of this fabulous network and being able to drive more value, I think, for Australians, you're seeing that very clearly demonstrated there. So overnight in September, we saw close to 31% of our customer base move to a higher speed tier. We've seen the Ookla rankings in Australia go from 98 to 48, so you're starting to see real benefits there. You're seeing those upgrades, I think, in terms of fibre, and again, one of the biggest benefits is, in your parlance, how do we move more customers from copper onto fibre? It's the ability for us to be able to migrate those customers and to make that available.
Can I just raise this concern, and this is raised by the ACCC, and I know you have rejected this, but the ACCC in March said we hold concerns that NBN Co's demand forecasting appears to reflect its planned spending and pricing and does not sufficiently incorporate its information on customer willingness to pay, and this could be part of perhaps the lower than ideal take-up. So the ACCC has raised concerns and, of course, plays a very important role in the regulatory landscape in this country, suggesting that NBN is exaggerating its customer forecasts to justify its spending plans. And so can I ask you to respond to those criticisms?
Senator, yes, of course. I mean, we've been participating, as you know, in the replacement module application for almost the last year. Again, when the SAU, the Special Access Undertaking, came into play, there were 3 regulatory cycles. The first one was 2024 to 26. The next one is 27 to 29. We've been asked to provide a number of business cases, close to 10 business cases, to assess against the prudency and efficiency of the investments that we're making. And the ACCC has come back with a finding, once you take into place the government public policy notice on the final 622,000, that recommends 99.7% of the investments that we have made. So I think there is a difference of opinion we have between Houston Kemp, who were the ACCC advisor there, and we've gone back as part of that consultation process to provide, I think, a different point of view regarding that. But what I would say, Senator, is again, we have seen a significant take-up, 560,000 in the last year, well performed the previous forecasts that we had regarding the NBN and the active number of premises that we have. But we continue to work, if I can say, very constructively with the ACCC. We've responded to the replacement module determination draft, and we'll look forward to their final determination.
Look, I would, on notice, could we have a copy of the correspondence between NBN, the Minister's Office and the ACCC in relation to this matter?
I can take that on notice.
Thank you. I mean, it was a pretty severe lashing by the ACCC, and if you're exaggerating customer forecasts to justify your expenditure, then, I mean, that is a real issue. I mean, the growth of people taking up the ABC has been fairly sluggish. Perhaps it's because more people are just relying on their mobile phone, using their phone for everything.
Well, I'd say we work in a very competitive landscape, Senator. I mean, if you think about, what we're seeing from low Earth orbit, if you think about 5G, if you think about other providers providing fixed wireless access, I don't want to hark back to Australia Post, but we do work similarly in a very competitive landscape.
You've got some monopoly, though, like Australia Post. So do you have any forward projections as to take-up of the NBN? Have you done any work or any modelling on forward consumer take-up of the NBN? Because I would have thought that things are only going to get more competitive.
Well, we obviously have forecasts. We provide guidance for a year ahead, and the reason we provide guidance just for 1 year, and that obviously takes into account the number of customers that you have, the speed tiers we expect them to be, and the pricing component as well. So we will provide a forecast as we go into next financial year of the revenue and also the EBITDA for our business. We are restricted in terms of how far we can provide guidance because we do have, as you know, a debt issuance position. And again, we have we have a book that's close to $27.5 billion. So again, it's a huge number. And so again, we are restricted in terms of how much guidance we can provide, but obviously we do work through that in a lot of detail, and we have forecasts out to 2040.
Can I just also ask, I have been seeking to meet with you, Ms Sweeney, and surprisingly I was advised that I could only do so if I had a representative from the Minister's Office in the meeting. This is very unusual. I've not had that situation happen before. So under the previous minister, Minister Rowland, she didn't require that. I mean, I fully expect that any meeting that I have with any agency will probably be reported back to the minister. I mean, that's not unusual. That's not a requirement of Australia Post. I'm wondering perhaps if you could reconsider that, because it's just an unusual request that you've made of me, and certainly the minister can't direct you in that respect.
Sure.
You are a government business enterprise. You're not a department of the minister, so you've got a lot of independence, and so I would just suggest that perhaps that's appropriate, that's reconsidered.
Well, Senator, again, I think we were scheduled to meet on the 19th of May, which would have been fabulous. I know you had a funeral and had to move that. But again, I'll take that on notice. Obviously, an expectation's been set. I'm happy to work through with you on that.
I would be most grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to receiving that further information on notice, and I will have other questions on notice to ask, but I might leave my questions there, Chair.
Certainly. Well, if that's the... Senator Smith, do you have any questions?
No, that was fascinating. We should You should apply for the job at Snowy Hydro.
Well, putting that aside,
Actually, I do have a question.
I think you're doing wonderful work at the NBN.
Very curious with the bold statement about coming in under budget. So what are the factors or the conditions that give you confidence of being able to make that statement? I'm genuinely curious because elsewhere we hear about cost of doing business, inflationary pressures.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
I don't know through to Mr. Labanovich, who's heading up that program, but again, we had a good level of confidence in that. And prior to maybe the war, given the impact on some of the inflationary costs we're seeing, we would have had a very high confidence. But Dion, if I can ask you just to maybe briefly comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Dion Labanovich, appearing as Chief Network Officer at NBN. Senator, we put a lot of effort into innovation in terms of construction methodologies, and when we start looking at the FTTN network, it does start from a desktop basis, and so you have to model out what you expect the network will look like, and reuse of infrastructure is so important down streetways, so where pit and pipe network exists, that's really important for us to reuse. So we've got new flushing techniques, high pressure flushing that we use through ducts that may be damaged or ducts that may be impacted with sand and soot that generally if you just use your rotor you won't be able to get through. So we've created new techniques over the rollout of the last couple of years to really reuse infrastructure. So what would be new civil build and horizontal directional drilling with large horizontal drill rigs are avoided. And so depending on the reuse of infrastructure, how we have to remediate pits and other pipes, it changes the cost base quite significantly because civil infrastructure is obviously one of the largest cost bases for the NBN as we roll out. So that aligned with the procurement processes that we've gone through. We've gone through national tenders here in the ACT. We've got 2 delivery partners working both in the north and the south, so we can do parallel investments of workforce and working with the industry to increase workforces at the right time, so we can bring that the rollout in as early as possible. So the connection between the rollout, how we minimise civils and what that means in terms of both the timeframes, as Ms Sweeney has mentioned, looking to bring a majority of the 622 in early by 18 months is a combination of that. So we are confident.
85%.
85% of the 622 in by July of 2029. That's 18 months earlier than December 2030. But we still have quite a way to go in terms of construction, and we have to manage rock, obviously, in a number of areas. ACT, for instance, is quite rocky. Parts of WA, Senator, as you're aware of, is sand and different challenges there. We've got cultural heritage that we need to manage very carefully, and the controls we put around culturally sensitive lands, are variable over that period of time as well. And we've also got waste management in regional Australia that we have to manage very carefully as well. So those variabilities can change the cost base as we go through the rollout. So as we continue to get further detailed designs back, reduction of civils and progress construction, which we're putting more and more into construction on a monthly basis, we'll get more evidence and more cost base to update those internal projections. And as Ms Sweeney said, we'll get to a good point probably over the next 12 months that we'll be able to provide a further view on what that $3.8 billion cost outlook looks like.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask you about risks at next estimates.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to the officials from the NBN Co Limited. We are now at the end of today's program. Thank you very much, Taz. That concludes today's hearing. Thank you to all witnesses who appeared and to Hansard and Broadcasting for their assistance. I remind senators that the committee has agreed that any questions on notice should be lodged with the Secretariat by 5 June 2026 in writing. Committee stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.